2012. All right, let's go ahead and call the meeting in order. Roll call.
Guillermo Cavazos.
Present.
Pancho April.
Here.
Javier Martinez.
Present.
Jose Gonzalez.
Present.
Richard Nord.
Here.
For the record, we do have quorum.
Thank you very much. Let everybody have a moment or two to go over the minutes.
I move approval, Mr. Chairman.
A motion,
Second.
a motion and second to approve the minutes as presented for the meeting of June 13th. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 4 on the agenda, report on the following Board of Adjustment orders. Would you please give us the report for 12-2017? Applicant Leonel Serna.
Yes, as per the building department, the property located on block 25, block 9, Santa Rita subdivision on 111 Malaga Drive has been corrected. They cut back the 10 feet that the building department was requiring.
So they're in compliance.
Yes, they're in compliance now.
Now, okay, how about the next one, Eloy Guerra?
The applicant Eloy Guerra, which has a property located at Lot 20, Block 1, El Eden Subdivision, Phase 13, has also corrected. They demolished the 10 feet, so they're in compliance with the building
All
department.
right. How about the next one? Adriano Ortegon Ramirez KRK Limited.
The property located at Lot 29, Block 8, San Isidro Northeast, La Cuesta, Subdivision Phase 2, has not corrected. However, the building department did issue a certificate of occupancy. So we're gonna have to look into that and see if we can still revoke that, because that house was demolished and they passed all inspections.
But
So
why would they have issued a certificate of occupancy?
they came back after the building department approved everything, so we have to talk to legal and see, what is it that they can do, whether they can revoke that CO or how legal is going to take action into that. But that one will be pending. We'll give you a report with more details next meeting.
Okay, yeah, we do need to make certain we get an update on that for the next meeting.
Yes, sir.
Number 4, Rodolfo Sepulveda.
That property located at Lot 4, Block 793, Eastern Division, located at 1415 Rosario Street, has not corrected the structure, and the building department, the code enforcement, is preparing a citation.
The what?
They're preparing a citation, so they're gonna go back inside them again.
Is that the one where an attorney came in and talked to us on that?
No, that's a different case. They
Different
haven't
case.
come back.
All right, well, please make certain that we get an update on that.
Yes. I just want to reflect on the record that Mr. Perales is now present.
Okay. All right, then I guess we'll move on to the first. The first one is a request submitted by Hector Adame to authorize an exception to the literal interpretation of Laredo Land Development Code, Section 24-77, entitled Dimensional Standards, by granting a variance to the setback requirements on Lot 37, Block 6, Kaledi Heights subdivision located at 3914 Sharam Drive. Is there anybody here to speak on behalf? Okay. Need a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
And second to open a public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Go ahead, sir.
What do I do? Because this is the first time I'm here.
You can state your name.
My name is Hector Adame, and I'm requesting a variance request for 0 feet west side setback and 6 feet rear setback. I built my carport in 2012 by hiring a contractor, and I assume and that this guy had gotten all the permits and the plans that he got taken to me. And he had to wait for the city inspector to pass the driveway inspection in order for him to continue. And we were never halted or anything like that for not compliance with all this that we built. And I was never informed that we had built it incorrectly. My appraisal in 2013 reflected that carport and also a swimming pool that I built the same year, 2012. And there was no problem after all. 6 years after, I get fined for not complying with the setbacks and the permits. So I would like to keep my carport as is, and instead of being demolished and being in the city of Laredo pollution.
So you're going from, you want to go from a 10-foot setback to a 0 setback? Is that what I'm understanding here?
Yeah, 0 feet west side setback.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, can I ask a question to the applicant? The plans that you submitted show that your property is extending all the way to your property line on the side. But we're looking at the aerials that are provided on our system, and it looks like you're encroaching into the city right away. Is that correct? I just want to verify that with you. Are you within your property line? Or?
Yeah, he's
Okay.
in the private property.
Okay.
Yeah. If I may, Honorable Chairman and Honorable members of the Board of Adjustments, Charlie San Miguel for the record, Council Member District 6. This property is in my district, and I've been out there personally to inspect it and review it. And I know there's a precedent in the past with the Board of Adjustments whereby what's a priority is the safety of any other people perhaps driving through there or living through there. And the existing property lines are already set back sufficiently to where that safety hazard is not triggered. There are no issues with drivers coming in. He lives in a corner. When you're at that corner, there's plenty of room to see back. I deemed it unfair. When I just heard of this a few months ago, I thought it was unfair that his contractor had actually applied for the permits, pulled out permits. We're thinking, because I spoke to building about this, is that the contractor never called for a final inspection. I'm thinking at that point, the building inspector would have caught it. He's advised 6 years later that he's encroaching into the setback. And so what we are doing through the building department is that we're trying to implement a system whereby a permit is a certain age or certain time, that at that point we automatically go do the inspection, because this is not the only case where that's happened. There's been several cases whereby the construction is done, the contractor does not call the building department for the final inspection, and then things like this happen. And so I'm calling just to plead with you all. I have personally gone out there to visit the location. I know there's some concern sometimes in this setback, concerns with utilities and things of that nature. I'm a utilities contractor. I also work doing that. All the utility contractors that I know have bore machines. I have a bore machine. If there's any structures in the backyard that are encroaching, because almost every job that we do, there's always structures back there that are in this setback or in the utility easement. We'll bore right underneath. I don't foresee that as a problem either. In fact, that's common practice with all utility companies. So I just would ask you to please consider granting the adjustment to this property, as I have personally been out there to see it, and I don't see a
Let me ask you a
safety
question.
hazard. Yes, sir.
We're going, when the plans were submitted, and it going from a 10-foot setback to a 0, were the plans submitted that way?
I don't know. That's a good question. Because the plan should not have been approved that way.
Anna?
We don't have a record. We just have a record of what he just submitted for the variance. We don't
I asked the same question.
So there was no request for permit for this building?
No, yes, there was.
There was? So if that was the case,
I think there
was
was a
that,
request for a driveway. I think the request was for a driveway only, not for an actual roof carport or I don't know if it's a palapa or.
See, then most definitely that's something that we would have caught. If we have a permit with the city and it's, 18 months old and we go do the inspection, we would have caught it right away, not 6 years later as somebody's driving by.
Okay, so I'm trying to put the timeline together too. So this was built 6 years ago,
Yes,
and there was, how did this come up? Did somebody drive by and notice it? Or
Yes,
what?
that's what happened,
Okay.
yeah. Earlier this year, I think is what happened.
Was the permit just for a driveway or is for the whole structure that we're seeing here?
I don't know.
I don't have a record of that. We can,
Let me double check, I'm checking right now.
Yeah, I mean, it might be important to see what exactly the building permit had.
Sure.
I'm not trying to put the onus on the city that they would not have allowed a building, I don't think they would have
course.
allowed, they
It
would not
wouldn't
have
have been
allowed
approved.
a building permit for the structure that's
Right.
there.
Right.
I don't think they would have
We don't
allowed
know
that.
if there's a
You're right.
permit, we don't know if there was a permit pulled for the structure?
We don't know the extent of the permit. Well, if it was just for a driveway, well, maybe they would have allowed it because they're just laying concrete.
Right.
But if they were, the whole thing, they may have.
But the
Can't go to
driveway
zero.
was the driveway already there or was not there? I don't know.
no, we built it the same year.
Okay.
But remember, the permit would not have been granted to a zero setback.
Correct,
Never.
correct.
It
Correct.
never would have been granted to a zero setback. So, I'd like the information as to what was granted and how it was granted. Because if it was granted as a carport, then it's open on three sides.
There is a
We
permit-
could
I'm
allow,
sorry.
we could allow 5 feet of that. But to go to a zero setback, I find, I do not go with that. The zero, all the way to a zero setback.
It's a roof structure. It's not like a house or a building. It's just like
It's open.
it's open. The only thing that goes to that is gonna be the roof. There's no walls. It's just the roof
Yeah.
that actually abuts up to the property
I think
line.
are there pictures there?
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah, there's-
permit on 2014 for a carport slash Porsche, 2014. And 2011, there's a,
2014?
yeah, there's a permit on 2012 for a driveway.
Oh,
Mr. Orozco, very resourceful, man.
Oh, that's it.
You're always impressing me.
So the question is if the permit that we gave back in 2014, did they deviate it or did they actually met the, what
Like-
we asked them?
Like you said, Honorable Chairman, there's no way that the building department would have approved it that way. So I'm thinking that the plans went in within the guidelines, and then the contractor built it differently, right? And the owner here was not aware of that. He thought, he pulled out his permits, the permit's on my window, it's up here, set, he thought everything was fine. So, but that's something that we're also working, Mr. Chairman, with the building department, so that this doesn't happen anymore. It's not fair to our citizens.
No,
that this happens.
understanding that it's not fair to the homeowner if the inspection is not made.
Yes, sir.
But since they were already in the home, there was no need for a certificate of occupancy.
Correct.
So, but we do need to have some type of closure on this
I agree.
in the future because this is happening more and more.
It is, Mr. Chairman, we recognize that. And we have been working with the building department, with the new building official, to implement a system whereby this doesn't happen anymore.
The picture showing a PVC pipe, what is that, a picture there?
Several PVC pipe.
several.
Some kind of pipe.
What?
Storage or something?
Is that a drainage of some kind?
No, that's my material that I put underneath
Okay.
the roof.
Storage. Okay, I was just wondering if that, what is the purpose of that, if there was any type of drainage?
Yeah, I saw that too, when I drove by, yeah.
Was this house built new?
Yes, sir.
And you just purchased it?
Yeah, we had just purchased it in January of 2012.
And it was built
2012.
January 2012?
Yeah, and then in June, that's when we did.
Oh, give or take. And the carport was there, it was not added on?
No, we added.
Oh, you added
built
it on?
Yeah, we built it in 2012.
Okay, he bought it new and then added that. That's why there's the additional permit.
That's why it cleared the first time without the carport, without the setback, but now they did it afterwards
No, but with the permit.
Huh?
With this permit.
And do you have a copy of the permit? Is there any way for us to ascertain that what exactly the permit was asking for and what was
Request that
what
to
was
the-
the finished out that they had, whether it was inspected or not, just to know like, okay,
I think maybe the issue here is that the permit was taken out for one thing, but something else was actually built. And there was no inspection done by the city afterwards of what was the final product.
Correct.
And the final product did not match what the permit was taken out.
That's a safe assumption for all of
That's
us
it,
to
right?
make. That's a safe assumption. I don't know for sure, but that's a safe assumption. I know the building department does a very good job
I mean,
in reviewing these
It's
plans.
gotta be a pretty safe assumption
Yes.
because
Yes,
I
sir.
don't think that there's any other way that the city would have given a permit.
I agree.
To go that route.
Yes, sir. I need to emphasize the fact that there is no safety hazard here. The structure in the back is at least 20 to 30 feet away from this roof. And the visibility for the drivers is not obstructed in any way.
But most carports, they're like that too. There's no, that are built to zero lot line. There's probably no danger to anybody hitting.
did you have something else, Edgar?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I have a question, because.
What's up? I'm sorry.
Oh, yes.
Sometimes the columns do. Sometimes they put out those, because I've gone to go see those as well.
That's past the lot line.
Yes.
That's,
And this is
you're
not.
talking inside. the
You're
lot
absolutely
line.
correct.
He's talking inside the
All
lot line,
inside.
there's no problem.
It's all inside. Yes,
And
sir.
that most all of the carports are the same thing. If they're built within their own property.
Yes, sir.
There's no problems.
Yes, sir. Although sometimes they'll pull it out all the way to the curb and then put up the columns, and that's where there's a problem. This is not that situation at all.
I think we have a question right here.
No, I think staff had something.
Yes, I have a question. The carport is at 0 feet on the side and 0 feet on the rear. But here you're asking for a rear setback of 6 feet.
Yeah, I would like to keep it as is, but
So
if not, I'll clear
You're willing to clear those 6
the
feet
6
or?
feet. I mean, if it's not
That-
possible to keep it as is, you know.
Why-
That request came from the building department because of the easement. They don't grant anything that's on the easement, so that's what we do.
Yeah, and the concern is with utilities,
So you
right?
couldn't request a 0 because an easement, that's the.
Yeah, that's what we normally do. Whenever structures come in where there's easements, we write it as the request all the way to where the easement starts. We don't
Sure.
add the request to the
And
property.
my experience with easements is that whenever a utility company needs to get in there, they'll go underground. They'll go buried. In fact, I think those laws, I guess, if you will, are outdated. I think that needs to be revisited by the state or whomever needs to revisit that. Because at every closing, you buy a property, you can't do anything back there. However, over the last 10 years at least, almost every property that we get back there, or at least maybe 10 to 15% of them, they'll have structures back there and we're boring underneath them. So it's common practice now, the utility companies don't want to go through all the hassle of the legal fight and everything else, and so they just have their contractors bore underneath. So I don't foresee, and then being on the corner, it'd be real easy to just get underneath that. But it's not even, it wouldn't even be a problem because it's just a roof structure. So in regards to that utility easement, my opinion is that you'll be okay.
But he's asking for, the
Zero.
way it reads is,
0.
no,
He
6.
He originally came in with a
0 and
0 request. However, by procedure, we do not add it as a request whenever there's an easement. We add it to where the easement starts, and that's why it was presented to you guys at 6 feet because of the easement.
So it will not be covering the easement.
We don't present that request because of the easement, but if you guys want to deviate and grant all the way to the property line, you may do so. But that's procedure by the building
Well, if there's no
department.
more testimony, we can close the public hearing
That
and then we
point.
can decide what we want to do.
I need a motion to close the public hearing.
If there's no other testimony, yeah.
I don't think there's anybody else speaking on behalf or against.
I move to close.
I have a motion to second to close the public hearing. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. So now, what are your thoughts?
Well, the whole matter is that it comes out to a 0, right?
Right.
And it was not approved, or was it? That's the question.
Well, they got a building permit.
But not for that, to that.
Not to 0.
Right. But there was no
Follow-up.
check and balance after the permit was done and the work was done to verify that it was done. That was the,
Well, it was
the
based
work was
on
done, what was
on
asked
the
for.
application, right, of what they were gonna do.
The application is to the property line on the rear and the side. That's what the request is.
To the property line?
Yes.
I don't ever think we ever have approved one to zero,
No.
from my experience.
Right.
I'm new at this, but you turn down people all the time with zero property, with, zero lot line. I mean, he built it wrong. I would go after the builder and say, hey, you built it to zero, they're making me tear it down, you do it.
Come and tear it down.
Come tear it down and fix
Six,
it.
just the 6 feet though, I mean, is
Just
that
the
right?
6 feet?
Are we talking
For
6
the
feet?
easement, yes, it's 6 feet.
Well, I mean, if you want to do 6 or 10, I don't know what you do, but
Well, we've granted some, like I said, we've granted some, but we've never granted to zero that I can recall.
We have never, that I, at least as long as I've been on this board, granted one to a zero
I think that's your answer.
that I can remember. Now, that doesn't mean that is not the case, but one of the things that we do need to think about is in the future, we need the help of the city. We need the help of the city to where we can close these gaps and this doesn't happen. You know, it's not a fault of the landowner. The permit was taken out, but at the same time, we need to figure out a way how we can hold somebody responsible for these actions. Because, this is happening more and more where people are coming to us with hat in hand and saying, look what happened. I didn't have anything to do with it, which they didn't. But at the same time, we need to somehow or another make certain this doesn't happen.
I really think that's part of the problem here, like, I think that the homeowner went through the process of making sure there were permits, taken out, and that's what we want, what we want property owners to do. If you're gonna add something or not, go to the building department, whether it's through the contractor or through yourself, you know what I'm saying? You put some confidence and trust into your contractor, hoping that he does everything by the book, and many times that's where the communication stops there. Now, we're not following up with inspecting the final products that are out there. So that's also another dilemma, I think, for our decision-making process here. So we're trying to be fair to you, sir, but we're also trying to adhere to like those kind of requirements that we have when easements are there, that you can't kind of encroach onto the easements. And I think the councilman's point is also fair. I mean, if there's new procedures that are being done, people are boring underground or whatever, that needs to be revisited. But I'm just trying to say, we're faced with the dilemma of making the decision and depending on what that decision is, it could be almost something unprecedented that we have never really actually done here to go to zero. That's all I'm
This is
saying.
a side garage, it's not most of the.
It's on the
ones we
side.
do.
Well, like, it's on the
Zero
side and it goes all the way to
front.
the rear end of the property also, so it's on two sides. So,
So what do we do? Need a motion of some kind.
Nobody wants to make that.
well, it's difficult. Like I say, it's a difficult decision to make. I would say if the property owner is willing to move the 6 feet or 4 feet or 5 feet so that we're not at zero, I would entertain a motion to do that or to postpone.
What would that entail?
Well, I'm just talking on the side, because it's all the way to the back and the rear, so.
Well, looking at it, I'm in agreement with you. He has another column, that's inside the easement.
Yeah.
And it seems like it'd be easier to cut.
The 6
that.
feet.
If you're talking about the side along the street, that's a more major undertaking because you'd have to put in new columns, footings. I mean,
Right.
that's like a major.
Right.
The thing that I'm also thinking of is it's been 6 years. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a long time to go back and ask somebody to fix something that frankly was the contractor being negligent or, well, I shouldn't make that accusation, but that.
Yeah, but like I said, we don't know all, there's plenty of issues where communication was broken down I'm just like, whether it's on the follow-up from the city as well. I mean, I'm not trying to point the fingers either, but we're in a dilemma now for a homeowner who's been there for 6 years and this structure's been there. And now we're telling them we want you to,
Along that line, even though if there was no follow-up, like you say, the permit was for such a thing, and that's what it should stand for regardless, whether it was a follow-up or not.
right.
I mean,
Okay, but having said that, the issue you have to look at is that if you go out and hire a contractor, you're hiring a contractor for the most part because you want that contractor to know more than you are.
Exactly.
And you're trusting that what he is doing is what it is. Now, I will say that the difference between if you're asking him to do it up to this line and all of a sudden it comes out to this line, I would have questioned it. I really would have. But not everybody does.
No, especially if you want it to the exterior line, and he says, well, okay, I'll do it there.
Yeah.
And what's happening now, whether someone passed by or not, Mr. Bradales' issue is, like, once again, it's a big dilemma, because like Mr. Bradales is kind of like, the property owner is the ultimate person who's responsible.
Sure, you're right.
And I agree that, in your respect, when you get these permits
and
out.
what was the kind of permit that was given?
Right.
It says this, so it's in paper in black and white, obviously, it should be anyway.
Yeah. So, I mean, so I'm saying, if the property owner would be willing to do that, at least to where they're already supporting columns, where he doesn't have to,
So it's basically to approve the way it is, which is demolish the 6 feet. That's what they're asking.
But could that?
Because right now
could
it's
that
at
be done?
0, it's to move it to 6, so it's basically
but not on both sides, right? I mean, like, if we think about the structure that's already there.
It would just be the rear, the 6 feet in the rear.
where the easements are.
Correct.
Yes, Edgar?
But is this structure open on 3 sides?
Four sides.
This was actually a complaint.
Detached.
Open on 2
Oh,
sides?
so it wasn't a random,
No,
It wouldn't?
somebody in that neighborhood wanted to build the same type of structure. So they went to the office to apply for the permits and they said no. So that's when the complaint started, because they were starting to say, but what about him? What about them? And actually this complaint, they have called it at least several times to the office, checking for the status of what's going on with the structure. You denied my permit. So I just want to inform that it was not we were not driving by, it was an actual complaint of somebody.
so someone in the neighborhood is,
Somebody in the neighborhood wanted to do the same type of structure with the same driveway in the corner.
and they're not getting their plans approved.
And that's how it started, yes.
And I can appreciate that, but I must emphasize, it wasn't a visibility issue or the safety is
No.
a concern. But, and I'm sorry, I know you closed the public hearing. He'd be willing to demolish the 6 feet from the rear, and I think that would be good. You would show that something was done as well.
Yeah.
Okay, then, if he's willing to do that, my suggestion there would be that we would table it until that is done before we grant it.
Either way.
But he's-
Before
I wouldn't want to grant it.
he does it, I think
wouldn't
somebody
want to
should
grant
tell him,
it.
yeah, we're
There's
gonna
no-
grant it.
We cannot grant on condition.
Vas a hacerlo yo.
Well, yeah,
No,
and
but he's
then,
asking for 6 feet demolishment right now. So it's basically, we approve it, he's gonna demolish it.
Yeah, if he does not demolish, the building department code enforcement will go and start.
Okay.
so the 6 feet from the rear would be demolished.
Yes, which will clear the
It
easement.
would remain 0 on the side then.
Yes, that's what the
Okay,
request.
so I would, if I can do that, I would do that in the form of a motion, Mr. Chairman.
We'll make the motion.
I'm making the motion that we approve on the side and we deny to the rear, the 6 feet, and that the follow-up from staff will be that those 6 feet have been removed. That would be the motion.
You're just approving one.
Just the one side.
One side. That's all we're
And
doing.
I still
right
think
now.
that's unprecedented too, but I'm just saying to give some deference to the homeowner, because this is what has happened in the past 6 years. Now we have issues from the neighborhood. Other people want the same thing that he has. But I do think that we're showing some kind of diligence here to say there is a lot of issues here where some blame or can be thrown to the contractor or follow up from the building department or whatever. we're trying to say, look, this is the best compromise for me, in my view, is not only that the property owner is willing to do that, this is the way for us to try to address this issue. That would be my motion.
But
That's the longest motion I've ever seen in my life, man.
Sorry.
I kind of agree with it as long as this, as this committee realizes that when the neighbors next door, next cross streets come back and say, okay, we want to do the same thing, we want 0 on one side and 6 feet back on the other, you all don't deny that either. You approve it.
Well,
Are you willing to approve all of them?
this happened 6 years ago. It's kind of,
Yeah, but you're approving it.
Yeah,
Go
but
ahead.
what happens many times though is like, we can only vote on the issue that's in front of us at the time. And I understand like what you're saying, well, you gave it to him and you didn't give it to me. And in the same respect, we're also in positions where people come from older neighborhoods and say, well, this got done, it may have been 60
Mr.
years ago, why
Martinez.
can't I get it now?
Mr. Martinez, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may, just real quick, in fact, right now, staff is currently working on revisiting these setbacks because of all these situations that are happening. We recognize the dilemma that you all are faced with and the dilemma that our citizens, our homeowners are faced with. And so we've got the experts, our staff is working on exactly that as we speak today. So,
Okay, we appreciate it. I have a
Thank you.
motion.
I second it.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? A motion and a second. I'm not gonna repeat the motion, because that took forever for you to get it
Shorten it
out.
though.
Motions, I think everybody understands the motion, the second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, having said that, I want to bend our councilman's ear here for a moment. That one of the things that we need your help in is to tighten up the laws, the ordinances that we have. We have too many of them where we get to a certain point and then there's nothing done after that.
okay.
So in a situation like this, we need to make certain that building and zoning, the building department goes and before the final approval is done, some type of approval process.
Okay.
But then also, we need to hold builders responsible for their actions.
With teeth, something with teeth.
And yes, and maybe some type of permitting system, and if they don't have a permit, and something that you can go back and yank a permit
Yes.
if they do something like this, but that's just a side note here.
No, that's excellent. And just a couple of points, and we can just build upon what you just said and build upon what we started working on, I believe last year, if not the year before. If somebody's pulling out permits illegally, plumbing, electrical, whatever, for somebody else, and they're not actually doing the work, we already have a process whereby they're advised if they do that, if they get caught, they're banned for 6 months. They can't do any more work. And so what we need to do is also do the same thing with the GCs, the general contractors. If they do something that is in violation of the permits, of the plans that they submitted for permit, that they also be held accountable. Now, how? What will affect us all is you can't work in the city of Laredo for 6 months. That's one way to do it. And I know that perhaps it could be part of the discussions that we have that will be presented to council. I consider you guys the experts in this field too, so your opinions are valued. It is important. We have a technical review board. I know they're slammed. They got a bunch of stuff. They've addressed some great issues that were of great development problems for land developers, making homes much more affordable, up to anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 per lot, just with the improvements that we've made to the land development. I think you guys, in your experience, can also, perhaps through the assistance of staff, create a list for us or create a list for the technical review board so they can begin to review it. And this is exactly the kind of feedback that we need to get.
Yeah.
Just like we appeal to the public on a regular basis, come let us know what's going on. We can't be everywhere at the same time. So if you know something, call us, let us know, see how we can remedy that. So I make that same appeal to you gentlemen.
I'll put together a list and I'll get it to you.
That'd be.
Mr. San Miguel, this board has not been unwilling to go to even to the council meetings.
Yes.
We're not afraid
We'd be willing
to.
to.
It's a very competent board, by the way.
Yeah, and we together have been together here for a number of years.
Yes, sir.
And we would be willing at any time to appear before the city council, but to let you know the things that we run into roadblocks many times.
Sure.
Where we want to make certain that we're following the ordinances of the city.
Yes, sir.
But then something happens and there's no teeth in it.
That's it right there.
And enough enforcement sometimes, man, the staff is pretty thin already.
They're
I mean,
swamped, I know, they've got a lot of
There's
work.
plenty for them to do.
There-
But
there is.
if you make something with some teeth in it, normally that's a
Yeah.
pretty good deterrent.
Yes, sir.
So anyway, we appreciate it, and
On
then
the
we'll be back
contrary.
in touch with you.
Yes, sir, thank you. And we'd
Thank
be
you.
honored to have you all at council.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Won't be the
All right,
first time.
moving on. Okay, request submitted by Daniel Alvarado and Elodia Alvarado to authorize an exception to the literal interpretation of Laredo Land Development Code, section 24-77, entitled Dimensional Standard by granting a variance to the minimum lot area for a duplex on Lot 15, Block 2, Salinas Key Subdivision 1, located at 8501 Michigan Avenue. Anybody here to speak on behalf?
Mr. Chairman, can you open the public hearing?
I will. I need a motion.
So moved.
A motion
Second.
and a second to open a public hearing. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. State your name, please.
No, español.
Sí, claro.
Ok,
Hablamos
gracias.
español.
Buenas tardes a todos.
Buenas tardes.
Estoy aquí, ¿verdad? Pues frente a ustedes, pidiéndoles un favor.
Su nombre, por favor.
Sí, mi nombre es Elodia Alvarado. Y pues estoy aquí, ¿verdad? Pidiéndoles un favor, ¿verdad? Que pues me den el permiso de construir unos 2 apartamentos allí o duplex, como se llamen, ¿verdad? Pero estoy aquí, ¿verdad? Pues a ver qué se puede hacer.
Mr. Chairman, just to brief you on that, Ms. Alvarado went to the building department to obtain permits for a duplex. She was denied because her lot didn't meet the requirements for the type of construction that she
duplex.
wanted. Yes, so that's why she's here for a variance on the minimum lot area requirements.
What is the minimum?
6,000. She has 5,625 square feet. It's a little short for me.
If she were to get the, I guess, approval, let's say we would approve it. Does she meet with her plans, all of the setbacks and parking requirements?
Yes, according to the building department, she does meet everything else except the lot area.
And nothing's been built yet?
No,
So less than 400 feet or 400 square feet?
square
Or?
feet.
So we would comply, is that what you're saying?
So we grant her that 400 square foot variance or whatever it is. That would still be the part, like he's saying, the parking requirements or
Yeah,
whatever.
she still has to go back to the building department and submit all the plans, but she has done so, and the building department says that the only thing they didn't meet
They
is the
haven't
lot
built
area.
not one thing, they're going through the process the way they're supposed to.
Correct.
Okay.
Is it within the setbacks?
It's
Yes,
from
the-
6,000 to 5625.
There's no site plan, or am I missing it?
There's no difference.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Now, the lot size,
The lot size is 25 feet by 125.
so it's the lot size that is not the sufficient size for the duplex.
That's
It
correct.
cuts it right there, cuts
Yeah.
15 feet off.
Right.
So if approved, the building department will make sure it falls within.
Yeah,
the
she still
setbacks
has
and
to
so
go and resubmit everything, all the plans, and to make sure that she's in compliance.
And
forth.
what,
Motion to approve. As is.
any other questions?
Can you close the public
Oh,
hearing?
sorry.
Pardon?
Yeah, we'll close the public hearing first.
Are there any other questions?
¿Algo más para reportar para nosotros o algo? That's it.
No, nada más eso, ¿verdad? Porque en la ciudad, ¿verdad? Cuando sacamos el permiso, fuimos a aplicar. Me dijeron que no se podía, que porque era residencial y que se tenía que convertir a comercial.
Or, staff, are there size requirements, minimum size requirements for duplexes?
That's the way I don't think so. That's the way I had understood the request, but now it's the lot that is.
That's why my question was
I
a
see.
that I'm
lot.
aware of.
Is there a difference between single-family, multifamily on that lot? Is there some issue with
Well,
that?
no, there's, yeah, the duplex is different from multifamily.
Okay.
I know that.
Okay.
But if the lot is what is going from 6,000 to 5625, could there not be then the duplex, whatever minimum?
She's in the correct zone for a duplex. She's
Okay.
zoned correctly. She's in an R3, which is for multifamily.
So it does,
Yeah, and you can see it in the maps. You have the zoning map within your packet. It's
What's
an
the width of the
R3.
lot? 50?
45.
Sorry?
45.
So she'll have 15, it's 30 by 36, is that right?
45
I'm
on
just
one
trying to
side.
figure out if the building's gonna fit the setback.
Right.
Well, that's what I'm trying
Right. But then she would have to adjust her,
Yeah, even though you guys grant the variance, if you do, she will have to adjust the building as she.
to the setback requirements that are there.
Yes.
Was a plan submitted as far as the layout of the building and?
She did submit whatever's on your packet, the site plan with the floor plan. She did submit everything else. Like I said, the building department reviewed it, and what Mr. Iruegas, which is the building plans examiner for this type of construction, he said that the only thing or issue he found within the site is the lot area.
so really all
requirements.
we're doing is we're
Approving the square foot.
authorizing the ability to build a duplex on that property.
That's correct. You're
And
not
then
approving the duplex.
Yet, still to come would be plans that would be with the setback.
That's correct. You're
Okay,
not
well, that-
approving
and
the
that-
actual building. The
answers
building
the question.
department will take care of that.
That answers the lot right
You're approving
there.
the lot
Yeah.
area.
Yeah, it looks like it's 30 feet, it's gonna be 30 feet wide, and I don't know how many long.
So she'll have 10 and 5, 10 on the corner and 5 on the inside.
Right.
So it'll fit, assuming it's 30.
Where's that?
You got the living area and then you got the
What number is
bedrooms.
that?
I'm sorry,
29.
29, correct. And then you got the bedrooms on top.
On one side, it'll be within 5 feet of the setback, the other side, they'll comply, or,
Well, you need 10 on the corner, but abutting the other house, you only need 5 on the side.
Yours is
So
different from mine.
it can work.
And then you got the stairs there, and then you got the next page will show
I don't know, I can't read that figure, so I
Yeah.
can't tell you. Can you read that?
It looked like it would fit.
Yeah,
How long it's gonna be?
Okay.
I move to close.
Motion to close the public hearing. All those in favor? Excuse me, a motion second. Got a motion second, forgot my second. We got a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, having said that, what do we do?
I'd like to make a motion to grant it.
I have a motion to
Second.
grant it and a second to grant it as it is. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Gracias. Ya está.
¿Listo?
Aprobado.
Listo.
Oh, gracias.
Aprobado.
Gracias.
She still has to go to the building, right?
Yeah, she's still gonna have to
Just
go
so she knows
to the
that.
building.
Just,
Is there anything else to come before the board today?
That will be all.
move to adjourn.
No? That's it, right? All right, having no further business today, this meeting is adjourned. No, we don't need a motion. We can adjourn when there's no more business.
I like that.
Adjournment.
We start when we start, we leave when we leave. That's it.
Vámonos.